En el nombre del Padre, y del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. Amén.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Bicycle Touring Talk. I am George Schlacek,
the one and only,
taking you along on a 3-month tour of Central America. We left off in El Salvador last time. I had met John, a cyclist from the Czech Republic, for the third or fourth time, and we were sharing a room at a nice rustique hotel where we spent an evening with other travelers, enjoying some Pilsner beer and, in my case, even some dancing. This really stands out in my memory because it's actually pretty rare for my extended bicycle tours. El Tunco was a paradise in many ways, and I could have easily spent more time there. Well, we spent an extra day and passed it mostly on the beach. It was much quieter at the hotel that evening because many of the guests we had gathered with had left. That was fine, because we were also going to leave the next day to continue on south. Since we were both headed the same way, we planned to ride together the next day and see how it would go. I already knew that Jan was a bit faster than I. It wasn't really a problem as long as I just focused on pushing myself just a bit harder. But I wasn't sure how long I wanted to do that for. We were up early on February 9th and left the hotel together. La Libertad was only about 10 kilometers away, and we decided to stop for breakfast there. We found a little place right on the beach that served great breakfast for a fair price. The guys running it told us a lot about the area, including how there was still a lot of drug smuggling going on at night, while at the same time telling us how safe El Salvador now was. Once again, I'd have to say that I felt very safe. It seemed that even on the roads, traffic wasn't very busy, and drivers were used to slow vehicles like bicycles and even pedestrians. Sure, there were some tunnels that made me nervous, but I know that traffic isn't what most people are concerned about when it comes to security here. El Salvador still has a bad reputation because of the civil war that lasted over a decade and ended in 1992. While I'm sure not everything's perfect in this country, it's peaceful and people are generally very friendly. After breakfast, we continued on together for a bit, but I soon lost Jan because I decided to stop somewhere for a cold drink and some conversation with locals. To me, rushing through this area wasn't worth it. There was too much to see and enjoy, and I simply had to fall back into my own pace that allowed plenty of time for extra stops. One of the biggest advantages of touring by bicycle is enjoying what you find along the way. At one point, I saw a family bathing and doing their laundry at the same time in the river and managed to sneak a photo. I figured that I'd probably catch up with John at some point, but then something unexpected happened. There are a few major intersections in the densely populated department of La Paz. I only had a very vague map of El Salvador, which seemed to be typical for this trip. Between the map and the actual roads, I got confused at some point and made a wrong turn. At first, I really liked that there was absolutely no traffic on this road that was in very good condition, but had some pretty steep climbs and sharp curves. It didn't dawn on me right away that this road took me east away from the coast by more than it should have. At one point, a little pickup truck passed me that was overloaded with at least 20 people standing upright in the box. I caught a picture of it, and several of the people looked back at me, wondering. Shortly after, I arrived at a small town by the name Tapalhuaca. It looked really picturesque. Buildings were painted in vibrant colors, and the municipal park was beautifully kept. I was thirsty from climbing and hungry for a snack, so I found a little store and bought another cold drink and some cookies. As I was outside the store enjoying the goodies while looking at the map, two locals approached me and asked me
¿Dónde va?
where I was headed. When I responded that I was just on my way through and ultimately heading south toward Honduras, they told me that I had made a wrong turn and needed to go back down the way I had come. The highway was down there. Of course, I wasn't going to catch up with Jan anymore. I had gone out of my way by roughly 12 kilometers, but since I had to go back the entire way, this now added 24 kilometers to my ride. It was a bit of a consolation that I had got to see a cute little town. The way back to the main highway was mostly descending, so very fast. Once I was back on track, I found a place to have lunch. A young lady was barbecuing chicken and serving it with plantains and a great salad. She had a good laugh when I told her about my little detour and told me about Lake Ilopango that was a bit further up from where I had been. It was one of El Salvador's largest lake and had formed in the volcanic crater. This, of course, made me wonder if I had missed a beautiful place. It's because of moments like this that I think 3 months isn't really enough to tour around Central America. There are just way too many places worth exploring. I'll be back someday, I think. The rest of the day was uneventful, and it eventually took me to Zacatecoluca, a regional capital and nice little city. I found a great hotel at a bargain price and despite fatigue, walked all over town to find a place to eat and check it out. The cathedral was especially impressive. It had been named Nuestra Señora de los Pobres, which means Our Lady of the Poor. I found out that it had taken 10 years to build this church between 1965 and 75 due to lack of funding. The church replaced the Iglesia Santa Lucia that had stood at this location for hundreds of years but had deteriorated badly. Once I was back in my room, it didn't take long to fall asleep. I had no idea how far I would take it the next day, but was determined to find another place on the ocean. This was going to be a Sunday, church day for the locals, and a perfect travel day for me. As for oceanside hotels, they can sometimes be very busy with locals on the weekends, but tend to get quieter during the week. Once again, I got a fairly early start. Soon, I passed a sign that indicated the distances to the nearest beach resorts going south. They were all over 100 kilometers away, so I couldn't be sure to reach any of them, but was going to give it my best shot. Sunday was different in El Salvador too. Yes, it was probably church day for many, as all the churches I passed, big and small, had speakers outside and were playing loud music, ranging from pleasant Latin tunes to something that sounded like someone was screaming to God just before passing on.
En el nombre del Padre, y del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. Amen.
But a lot of people seemed to be too busy to go to church. I saw a guy casting blocks to build a house out of clay. Then there was this couple riding on a tricycle. So many friendly people. I couldn't help but ride with a big smile on my face. That was until the kilometer markers didn't make any sense anymore. Sometime after passing through the town of Usulutan came a point when once again I felt completely lost, with no idea how far anything was and if I was even still on the right track. My map simply didn't match reality. Had I made a wrong turn without noticing it? Eventually, I found myself at a fork in the road. One side led to San Miguel, the other to Playa El Cuco. That was perfect, except that there was no distance indicated. It couldn't be terribly far, but there were some mountains separating me from the beach, and this was the end of the day. My muscles were aching from over 100 kilometers of riding, and now this. The only way to go was by pacing myself. It was really just a few kilometers, but the climbing was slow, and I made a few stops to take pictures of the beautiful landscapes. At one point, someone pulled over to talk to me and indicated that I was welcome to stay with them at their beach house. He gave me directions and all, and I seriously considered taking them up on it. However, once I finally got into El Cuco, I was toast. El Cuco wasn't what I had expected after having spent a day in El Tunco. This place was quiet by comparison, and the roads were mostly unpaved. I asked around to find an economical hotel and eventually found what turned out to be a really nice one. It must have been a top-notch resort in its heyday, but now the glamour had faded a bit and it was a bargain place. There was still direct access to an amazing beach via the back gate and a very nice pool. Then there was a restaurant that was offering steak for next to nothing. I didn't leave the place that night except for a stroll on the beach during sunset. Later, I went for a short swim in the pool and then called it a night. There wasn't anything to do besides sleeping, which was good. It was quiet at this place. I noticed a few guests, but no party atmosphere like in El Tunco. When I got up late the next morning, I had the choice of leaving right away or extending my stay by one more day. I had ridden over 130 kilometers the previous day, and it made for a perfect excuse to spend an extra day on the beach. The town of El Cuco was like my hotel, for the most part a bit run down. But there was major work underway on a new boardwalk. Parts of it were already finished, and I actually ran into some international tourists there. This place seemed well on its way to being a tourist hotspot once again at some point in the near future. In the meantime, it was perfect to spend a relaxing day doing absolutely nothing except for walking along the beach and enjoying the ocean. The ocean is where life is believed to have originated. I could stare at it for hours and keep discovering stuff. Makes me wonder what else is out there that humans don't even know about yet. A fisherman was throwing out some leftover pieces of fish and boom! All of a sudden the air was thick with birds chasing after the free meals. Whatever dies on the beach doesn't go to waste. There's always some creature who's going to eat it up. Here's another example of birds chasing after a fishing boat. The vultures seem to be right on top of the food chain here. They can be seen waiting patiently for their opportunity to get free food, and no one is going to challenge them when they do. I went swimming several times during the day until I had to get out of the sun. It was a hot sunny day, and even doing nothing strenuous was making me tired. I fell asleep in my room later, and it didn't have air conditioning. When I woke up, I was very sweaty, so I took a shower before going for supper nearby and to the store to buy some snacks and water for the road. A whole day had passed in a hurry. I attempted some route planning using Google Maps before bed. My tour was nearing the halfway point, both time and distance-wise. I had not done any thorough planning prior to the trip. The 3 months time period had been just a sloppy guess, and it kept me moving from place to place even when I would have loved to stay here and there. It was February 11th, a Monday, and I figured that I could be in Leon, Nicaragua by Friday evening. The next morning, I set out with the goal of getting close to the border of Honduras, to cross early the following day. The ride went well, and suddenly I was much closer to the border than I had thought. Was I already done with El Salvador? Was it a good idea to cross into Honduras later in the afternoon? I'll tell you about it all in the next episode, happening right here next Saturday. Honduras is often talked about as one of the poorest countries in the world, with cities plagued by gang violence. Was I going to run into my first serious problem down there? Part of me knew that there are always more good people than shady ones, even in the poorest places. But all the rumors did have an effect on me. There was a nervous feeling in my stomach, a mild form of anxiety. It wasn't entirely unpleasant. Actually, it was that, along with my curiosity, that was driving me. Do you find that weird? Please comment if you like. I still love the feeling of stepping into the unknown and unpredictable. Comfort zone is overrated, but we can get caught up there. I'll talk about that too. So do yourself a favor and subscribe so you won't miss it. I also have a few other videos for you until then. Until then,
En el nombre del Padre, y del Hijo, y del Espíritu Santo. Amén.